90% of humans are born, live, and die without ever knowing their purpose. 98% do not have clarity. So clarity actually comes first. And that is how you're building credibility that supports your clarity.
Welcome everyone to the Digital Empowerment Podcast, and today I'm super excited to be joined by Mitchell. So Mitchell, do me a little favour and introduce yourself to our audience, and we get into our little chat.
My name's Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert. My primary focus is on clarity and helping companies and individuals articulate where they're executing on their purpose in less than 10 words. To give you a little bit of background, I'm a Marshall Goldsmith 100 coach. I run for book publishing companies. We've published over 750 books. I've written 65. And where I'm spending most of my energy is with a clarity program where we not only give the participants the opportunity to get clarity, the opportunity to give clarity to their clients, but also we give them leads on a daily basis so that we are working with them so they are running a business versus running a hobby.
Amazing, incredible. I have a lot to ask you today, so thank you again for your time. So
good to be here.
When you talk about clarity for a business owner, business leader, what do you mean? Personal life, company, and their own goals, how they grow their business, their team?
So yes, and yes. So first, let me give you a couple statistics. From what I understand, and doing the research, looking at Gallup polls, the research I've done myself, 90% of humans are born, live, and die without ever knowing their purpose. 98% do not have clarity. And what I mean by that level of clarity is if you are a credible human or you run a credible business, I'm gonna give you the formula that I use, and it's a very simple formula. The formula is if you run a credible business, you are a service to fill in the blank. Who do you serve? 1, 2, 3 words. And either what is their pain point or what is their pleasure point from their perspective they're looking to get over or to achieve. If you can, so in this particular case, clarity represents the who and the what, who you serve and the pain point or pleasure point. And the simplicity of this is crazy that 98% of people don't have it.
And is it that people don't take time out to understand this, or is there, you think there's people have a barrier to understanding what their clarity is, that just it does come across as more difficult than you've just explained it?
It's a great question, right? It depends who I'm talking to determine like what the answer is. I'll give you at least 2 that pop into my head. One, we have a bunch of coaches and consultants who want to make it really complicated so you're confused and you will pay them money. Okay, let's put that aside. True, but we'll put that aside. 2, let's focus on the simplicity of who you serve, right? Just that statement. What we've been taught is that the bigger the fish net we cast, the more fish we catch. The truth is, the opposite is true. The more narrow the fish net we cast, the more focused on who we're attracting, the easier it is for us to demonstrate that we have credibility to serve that audience. And so a lot of times when people say start off with who they serve, their audiences are so wide, the person on the other side, even though they may or may not say it, they just don't believe it. It's just, it doesn't make sense, or there are too many words, they can't even remember. So what happens is, this is why I keep I keep, by the way, just so you know, I call this a CPOP. This is the formula for the CPOP. CPOP stands for Customer Point of Possibilities. And if you can articulate your CPOP in less than 10 words, there are at least 3 audiences that will remember you. Okay. So having a compass, having a North Star, that's important. Most people, when somebody comes to them and they're adjacent, they're going to go, oh yeah, I could solve your problem. Well, once again, you're losing credibility by being all over the place. Right. We can come back to that. Second, your partners. If you have partners who really trust, know, and love you, the shorter and easier it is for them to know when they should recommend you, the better. And then 3 is the prospects, right? Your prospect may not need you today, but when they stumble upon the scenario where they actually are perfect for you, if you've given them something less than 10 words, there's a better chance they'll remember who you are.
And again, as you say, you find that most business leaders don't have this then at all?
98% do not have clarity.
Wow. So big opportunity for us all. And as I seen when I visited your website, so you have a video course people can sign up and actually go through a little bit of program to understand their own clarity of what their positioning is.
Yeah. Well, okay. First, you could watch a lot of my videos and watch me going through the creation of a CPOP with lots of people, and the do-it-yourself people, that might be enough for you. I mean, literally, that might be enough for you. You're not my audience. I mean, you're my audience, the do-it-yourselfers. You're my audience because when you go, oh my God, that is so simple, Mitchell, I agree with it, you will be my recommenders for the people who want to have it done with you. Right? Now, I do have a 1-hour course that people could take. Once again, if you're a DIY person, the course is perfect. If you're done with you, part of it is you want to talk to somebody. You want to ask questions. So once a month, I do a 90-minute session where I guarantee everyone that comes in the room, so I guarantee with money back, that you will walk away with your CPOP. And it is, I'm going to say it's life altering, but let's do the and. Okay. So let's assume that this is so simple and so powerful, and we'll step back and talk. What I'll have to say, and so some people gets this immediately, and some people are, yeah, Mitchell, what are you talking about? We as humans vibrate at a frequency, right? We resonate, right? Most of the time we're going through life not in vibe, not in frequency, not in harmony. It turns out that your CPOP are the physical words that are a manifestation of your frequency. So if you hear those words, well, these are not my words, these are your words, I'm just listening for them. If you hear those words, you're like, oh my God, that feels really good. Let's assume, and now I've actually done this over 1,000 times, let's assume I'm really good at what I do. I am, but let's just assume, for basis of this, let's just assume I am. And I've actually helped listen to and deliver a CPOP, a customer point of possibilities, for 1,000 businesses and individuals. And let's assume they were all accurate. That may not be true, but let's assume they are. 90% of those people will get out of harmony, will forget it somewhere between 2 hours and 2 weeks. 10% will go, oh my God, this is amazing, and they know what to do. You know, sometimes you get information, you go, man, I was waiting for that, and boom, I'm ready to go. Now, what happens is given that the world wants to bring you out of harmony, bring you out of frequency, for the reason why, how come it's not 2% of people? Why is the formula not switched? Why is it not 2% of people don't have clarity and versus 2% of people have clarity? So given that we're out of sequence, even if you get in harmony today and the world wants to take you out of harmony, you're going to need someone to help you keep aligned. right? So that, by the way, that's the state I'm at now. So I have a program if somebody wants to work with me on that. I also am looking for partners. By the way, I have a fun word. It's called CPOPing. So if you have your CPOP, what happens in 90% of the case, you need someone to help you with CPOPing. Accountability partner. So it could be a buddy, right? A coach or a consultant or whoever it is, could be the executives of your team. You need someone to help you stay aligned with who you actually say you are and how you operate on a daily basis, because stuff comes in the way. And so that, by the way, this is the most uniquely interesting interview. Thanks for asking the questions this way. So I'm going to say what's important. If you're listening right now, and by the way, if you want to try it yourself, if you're listening right now, think about the who and the what, who you serve, and the pain point or pleasure point. And then use that as your compass for every decision you make. By the way, the scary part is as soon as you get it, you feel aligned. The scary part is looking at your LinkedIn profile and looking at your website and go, oh my God, I need a lot of change.
So the 2%, then you would see them as the super high achievers, and I know you've met and worked and yourself, so they would be super successful generally.
You know, that's a really good question. I don't, now that you've asked the question, I could honestly say that I don't think I've looked at the 2% in that way. So I don't know if I could really answer that question. And you're making me feel really foolish that that's the answer. I should know the answer to that question.
That's the next.
Yeah.
That's the
I would assume their life would be easier, and I'm not sure. So I'll have to look at that and maybe come back to you at another point in time.
Very good. As I say, that's the next book. So done already. So we got it. But you talk about a few things there. So you're talking about habits and routines and being productive and maintaining it, or whenever you get into your flow. Is there tips or advice that you've seen that works for that, or is it, as you say, you really do need someone to maybe keep you accountable? Is that the best way to do that?
Well, let's put it from your perspective, because your audience is used to listening to you, right? So let's say they get excited about you. They absolutely need to have their website created for the first time or updated. Okay, what's the first question you're going to ask them?
Yeah, who's your target audience? Who you?
Yeah, who are you? Who are you, and who do you want to serve, right?
Yeah.
And how focused is that energy, right? And when you, because for me, when you're building a website, who do you serve? Okay, what graphics make sense? What colors do they like? What testimonials should we use? What stories should we incorporate? If somebody gave you 20 stories, but none of them were focused on what the person said they were doing, they just happen to do it at another life. For you as a service provider, you need to be able to go, yeah, that doesn't work, right? And the person goes, yeah, I know it didn't work. I just really wanted it to. That's what I mean by, so there are some people who are disciplined enough that when they get the playground they should be playing in, they actually know how to play in the playground, right? It feels comfortable. They go, generally speaking, that's 10% of the population. The other 90% need a nudge, from a baby nudge to an ongoing support, right? And part of it actually really comes from you. I'm going to say, when you look at somebody and they say, I want a website, and they come back to you with a gobbledygook answer of who they serve, the first thing you really want them to do is kind of get their CPOP. And here's what's really becomes interesting for someone like you in your situation is you're doing something more than giving them a website.
Totally. Wow. Yeah. You're solving a bigger problem for them as well. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's where it gets real. By the way, that's where it gets really fascinating. That's where you no longer compete on a price. How much does it cost to get a website done? because your program is more than just the website. Let's create the website, and now let's modify it over the next couple of quarters as we see the transformation of your business happening. That's what, to me, that gets really fascinating.
Wow, okay. Now you're giving me ideas. Very good. Very
Oh,
exciting.
good.
No, it's brilliant. Yeah, a different way to look at it. And totally agree. The website, what we're selling is a vehicle to get to the end goal, which again aligns to the CPOP for sure. Do you think, and all the entrepreneurs that you've helped, I'm sure you've seen some people at the start of the journey, and maybe some people like yourself or myself. I've got the grey hairs and the war wounds and the stories. Is it easier when you've got some experience to come up with your CPOP, or is it young entrepreneurs? I'm thinking I've seen so many young people today start their own business. Does experience come into this, or it's blended?
It's a very generic question, so I'll try to put parameters around it. So a lot of it depends on their cultural upbringing and how much they've been exposed to. That is regardless of age. Particularly if they've been exposed to, I like to call it marketing cookie cutter approaches of the way to do things that must get done. There are times when I've seen young entrepreneurs who were clueless, and I've seen young entrepreneurs who just completely rewrote all the rules. And so I'm almost wondering if it's an on-off switch, right? I mean, because it's a really interesting question. It's quite possible that it's an either or. There's no middle ground with younger entrepreneurs. Clueless, not really sure, or no rules exist, so they're good. And as you mature in your business, you are taught all these rules. Sometimes they're bad, Other times they're enough for you to get. Normally, what happens when people get their CPOP is it's a massive aha moment. And then being able to take that CPOP potentially through a website or through a podcast or through some other vehicle to your first client, where you're then reinforcing what you do with the client and you're reinforcing the playground you play in, that's when it gets very transformational.
Incredible. Yeah, no, I can understand that. And I see obviously your books behind you, and you talk about credibility and Credibility Nation. Credibility builds into this. So once you've got your CPOP, then you do need to build your credibility to connect with those target customers that you're trying to serve. Is there ways to build credibility, and how important is it in an entrepreneur's life?
How important it is vary. Let's do the ant. When you see all the people who are out there who promise that they're going to build your credibility, right? And once again, if you're listening only, I do my double fingers quotes, build your credibility. They are missing an important element. Most every one of those people are missing an important element because they have these marketing cookie cutter approaches to how to build credibility. And it's worked for those in the past, so it'll quote unquote potentially work for you. But they're missing the important thing, and that's what's your clarity. So clarity actually comes first. Once you have clarity of who you serve and the pain point or pleasure point, then your credibility is as simple as how do those who are in your audience, that you've defined to be in your audience, how do they get to, let's assume 100 of them walk in your front door, whether it's your physical front door or your website. What do you incorporate when you meet them in person or when you meet them on the website that they trust, know, and like you, right? So credibility is the quality in which you're trusted, known, and liked. And underneath each of those, there are 10 values of credibility. So how does somebody be trusted? Well, you showcase vulnerability, external integrity. You showcase authenticity. You showcase that you're coachable, right? Those are 4 elements of being trusted. In terms of being known, You should be showcasing that you have the intent and commitment to do the right thing, that you actually have, and this is an interesting part, internal integrity, that what you say on the outside corresponds with who you are. And most importantly, in terms of people knowing you, is that you are of service to others, that you really care about people being, that you're a servant leader. You really care about the success of your audience. And then what's important, and most people don't think about this, but they kind of forget this. You want to be likable. Well, there are two values of being likable. One is showing respect. That's coming early, coming prepared, showing your heart. And two, I call it spreading cred dust, sharing the ideas, thoughts, and actions of others. So when people are coming in the door, like I said, physically or to your website or your social media presence or whatever it is, how are you demonstrating to them? And specifically, if you have a focused CPOP, you know who they are, you know their pain point or pleasure point. How are you just demonstrating to them that you're somebody to be trusted, that as they get to know you, they like you and want to do business with you? And that is how you're building credibility that supports your clarity.
And is not having a CPOP and maybe not having credibility, are they two of the biggest mistakes that you've seen entrepreneurs commit over the years? Or maybe there's a lot more?
What mistakes do entrepreneurs make? I think the clarity is the biggest. The second biggest is when people decide they always want to go alone. Right? So, hey, I could do this myself. I don't need any partners. Now let's do the opposite side. They find somebody they like, they want a partner, and then they spend all the time worried about how the deal's going to work and what the contracts are and how to get everything aligned. So those are three big mistakes: lack of clarity, not knowing who you're going to serve and think you could do it by yourself, or when you work with partners, spending all the time on the mechanics versus actually finding clients and delivering. So the most important thing as an entrepreneur you can do, let's do the opposite of mistakes. You find somebody you want to play with. You find somebody who is a partner you want to do business with. The partnership starts when the first client walks in the door. You could say, hey, listen, I want to work with you. Great. Because at some time during that relationship, so you look at somebody, let's say we were going to play together. We could say, okay, we're going to do blah, 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 and we'll split profit. Or you get 80%, I get 20%, whatever it is, right? Well, we don't need any contracts. We shake hands. We deliver on the first client comes in the door. We deliver on the client. Sometime during that engagement, something bad's going to happen. And either I'm going to be alone in the room with them or you're going to be alone in the room with them. And what has to happen is that you're happy with what I say when you're not in the room, or vice versa. And when that happens and we had fun and we look at each other and say, hey, let's do that again, that's when we do the contracts.
I'm thinking all of the books and the knowledge that you've gained and all of the talking and the speeches that you've delivered, some incredible content online around your learnings and your shared experience. How do you find all this content or gather this on your journey? Is it just talking to other entrepreneurs? I appreciate you've had some very successful businesses and roles as well. But where do you get and discover all these ideas?
Oh, thank you for asking, and thank you for the compliment. You know, we need to go through life with more than one sponsor. We think about sponsorship being a financial sponsor. You know, to me, there's 6 sponsors. There's financial, there's spiritual, whatever that is for each and every one of us. There are accountability sponsors. For many of us, particularly guys, our spouses or our accountability partners, but we'll put that aside. There's also credibility sponsors. So where do we get credibility? I notice you teach at a university. That's a credibility sponsor, right? You write a book, that's a credibility sponsor. Do a speech, that's a credibility sponsor. One of the sponsors is content. And the question becomes, where do you, and the last sponsorship is awareness. Right now, you're being my awareness sponsor, right? You have a podcast, whether one person sees it, you, or 100,000 people see it, those people in your audience, you are being my awareness sponsor, and you've taken and financially you're paying for this, right? So you're being my financial sponsor and my awareness sponsor. I happen to potentially be a content sponsor, right? Because we're talking, right? So we get our content from a number of different places. And what's important is to both be vulnerable and to be coachable, right? Even when the best lesson we can learn is when we learn we're doing something wrong, right? And we're like, oh my God, I got to change it right away. The real lessons come when you're working with clients and you support them, or they with you. There's always opportunity. One of my big content sponsors is Audible and listening to books, right? Many people just spend a lot of time on podcasts, and newspapers. And so you just have to choose the audience or choose the way that you're going to be both receiving content and also sharing content. Content sponsorship goes both ways. Because let's say you put something out there and it's really rubbish. Well, if there's nobody listening or people telling you it's good when it's not good, that's a problem as well, right? So it's a missed opportunity for learning and for growing. And for me, it's just I've been in Silicon Valley for long enough, and there's just, same is true in your neck of the woods, maybe in a much different scale, but there's lots of opportunity to learn and grow from lots of different people. And many times we turn off and we're not paying attention to the sponsor opportunities that are coming our way.
Incredible. No insights there. And when I look at all the content that you have produced over all the years, and the volume of books and the publishing, things have changed dramatically over the last couple of years. But you believe truly you've had an incredible return of investment then of creating all of that content?
One of my aspirations or bucket list items at some point in time was to be a book publisher. And so I still own 4 book publishing companies. And we have published over 750 books. I've written 65. And so in this space nowadays, most book publishers are hybrid publishers, so they get paid by their clients to actually publish. And let me tell you my claim to fame. Are you ready? I say what I do, and I do what I say. Isn't that interesting? Here's the price point. Here's what we're going to deliver, and then we deliver what we say we're going to do. The problem in the publishing space at the moment, and this has happened in many, many places around the world, is book publishing is now democratized. Because it's democratized, that means anyone can do it. And because anyone can do it, we have business models that are basically stupid. And it's really hard to compete against stupid. So a lot of times for the new clients, book publishing is about 10% of my business. Executive coaching is about 10%, and 80% is focused on the clarity work. And when I'm talking to someone and they go, I got a book, I don't know where to publish it. Like, let me tell you what I do. This is our price point. This is what we do. And I'm very happy if you decide not to go with me. This is the stuff you need to learn. So a lot of the time it's education, right? Here's what you get. Here's the value. Here's what success. I typically will only pick people I work with who I know will be successful. Okay. So now the next question is, what does success mean? Success, if you're writing a book, is now typically only working with nonfiction authors. Success is not about how many books sell. By the way, I'll give you a great example. I had a call today I'm part of the Marshall Goldsmith 100 Coaches. I was talking to another 100 coach today who's she's going nuts because she She's doing her first book, and it's driving her crazy. And I said something, so I'll share with you a private conversation. I won't tell you her name. I said, success of your book is not how many books sold. And I was kind of like, huh? Right? And success is, how have you used this book for incremental referrals and for new clients? So here, are you ready? I'm going to give you 2 ideas. These are great ideas. She has a really robust client base. Why don't you go to your client base and say to your client base, hey, listen, instead of paying me my normal fees this quarter, why don't you buy a book for every employee and pay me half? She's like, oh my God, that's so simple. Yes. Okay. The second is, have your team create a list of 300 clients that you'd like to have. Create envelopes and handwritten notes so that when a book comes, you autograph the books, stick them in the envelopes, send them along. 2 weeks later, do a follow-up call. Success in publishing a book in these days are, you've made your clients get happy about wanting and continuing to use you and refer you, and you picked up new clients. It has nothing to do with, now, there's a dream that people read books, and maybe that happens, but that's a nice, in my perspective, that's a nice value add. So the people I want to publish are the people who go, oh, yeah, we can do that, Mitchell. Great. We will support you.
Yes, so sounds incredible. And I like the ninja tactics there to spread the word and drive the sales. So very interesting. Just wondering, future, we've talked about what's happened and the history. How do you see the industry changing going forward in digital world and in entrepreneurship and content creation and in clarity? There's so many areas, but
Yeah.
lots of change now with AI and the world at the moment. But yeah, what's your view?
First of all, I'm going to put a mark in the sand. 2023 was a very instrumental year for us. 2023 is the same as 1995. So let's go back to 1995 and tell you. So the internet came around in the 60s, 70, number of different internet-based technology. And I was working at Sun Microsystems way back when, and I was using internet-based technologies. But the world did not see the value or power of the internet until Mark Andreessen in 1995 put out the product called Mosaic. Mosaic was the first browser. It was a visual interface into the internet. And before we knew it, there were 50 million users using the internet. And people started going, oh my God, this is real. Okay. Now, 1995, Mark Andreessen. Fast forward. For the last 60 years, from what I could tell, we've been talking about this thing called artificial intelligence, AI. 2023, ChatGPT came out, and regardless of what you want to describe this to be, as a phenomenal platform that will change everything. If you don't believe that, your job will go away and you're going to wonder what's going on. So what happened in 2023 with ChatGPT is that thought leadership has become ubiquitous. Okay. Did you hear that? Thought leadership has become ubiquitous. So, and we'll just follow through. Anyone who wants to write any content on any area, all they have to do is be able to ask the right questions. Any area. So what does that mean? It goes back to the old days of the way we get business is through referrals, through relationships. Yes, it's true it's important to have thought leadership, although nobody knows if you created it or if GPT created it or if it was a combo. By the way, if you're doing everything by yourself and not having AI help you, you are wasting time. The thing that becomes interesting, it comes back to, do you have the clarity to know who you are and who the partners should be that you should be playing with? The referral partners, the partners you want to co-create product with, and the clients you're working with. And the more narrow, more focused you could be, the easier it is for you to be successful, because the easier it is in your world for people to know who you are. And so the life has changed because the concept of having a global influencer, thought leader on a particular topic is not as relevant as those people who are very focused on a very specific vertical or set of verticals that really are fine-tuned, and you recognize that this person is the thought leader in that space.
Yes, excellent. And do you think that clarity, and go back to the CPOP, having that clarity would help companies and entrepreneurs with innovation and protecting their business going forward?
What do you mean by the word protecting?
Making sure that they are staying on trend and innovating, not ignoring what's happening in the market and getting caught out.
Well, so I want to say yes, but let me explain. So and I did an article recently. If you hadn't seen it, it's in CEO magazine. I did an article on how can corporations incorporate the CPOP for the way in which the company is executing on their purpose. Because if the corporation has a CPOP, remember, 10 words or less, then each division, each department will have a variant of that. And if you actually give somebody in the department, hey, here's the playground you play in, now go and play in that playground, just do it safely. That's not how we run companies today. If we do that, then the people in the playground get the chance to do what makes sense for the new people that come into the playground. Right? If that makes sense, I'm using metaphors beyond belief. But what it comes down to is you want to empower your employees to successfully play in the place that they get excited about. If they're not excited about playing that place, you got the wrong employees. Time to switch them up. If they are excited about playing in this place, empower them to be successful. Don't tell them everything they need to do. Just say, hey, make sure we make our customers happy. And as they change, make sure you change appropriately. So the answer to the question is, if you have self-empowered employees who understand the playground or the ever-changing playground they're playing in, who are then adding value to the clients that are coming in the door, they will bottom up bring in new solutions that will allow the company to be more successful over time.
Excellent. And would you have any case studies or more examples? You've given us a few already around companies that have maybe achieved clarity or worked on it and had some impacts, or where you've seen clarity help a business, what areas of their operations?
So I'm going to say the clarity has a number of different definitions, and the way that I have defined mine, I don't have any examples that I can share that are publicly available. So I would just encourage you to read the CEO magazine article. I could put it in the chat with you after our conversation. But go back to any company today that's successful and see if you can articulate where they play and how successful they are in a short period of time. And just because they haven't followed the CPOP approach doesn't mean that they don't have clarity. But I have not done that research enough yet to be able to articulate from my mind if they really have the right level of clarity. And I don't want to make it up on the fly.
Brilliant, amazing. And we definitely link to that article below. So just to come back to CPOP, so the perfect customer or the avatar that has maybe or would benefit most from that then is all types of entrepreneurs, all types of leaders in the business. Is it everyone would get that, or again you'd start at the company, the company, it should be company wide, the director board level should set it, and then it should filter down to the rest of the team?
it's a good question it's probably like 3 or 4 questions built into one.
I get excited.
I don't know. I appreciate that. Generally speaking, we've been taught by Simon Sinek told us that we need to know the why. To be honest, the why comes second. What comes first is, if you're a credible company, it's the who and the what. It's the CPOP. And it's typically the executive staff, that are setting the CPOP for the company. Now, if you're a solopreneur or a smaller company, it could be you and the partner, or just you. If you're a solopreneur, what's your CPOP? And for me personally, how I do CPOPing is I'll share with you my CPOP. I picked a very specific focus, a very specific audience. And the audience I picked will start with coaches who've created a job, not a business. So specifically, I'm working with coaches, entrepreneurs, and small businesses where there's 1 to 2 primary rainmakers, where when they wake up in the morning, they're doing stuff they don't like doing because they don't have an ongoing business. They've not done a great job of having a steady stream of clients come in the door. So we have a done with you program. And that done with you program, they get a coach, they get access to a mastermind if they want to use it, and they get leads on a weekly basis. And we meet with them to say, okay, are you doing what you need to do? Are you accomplishing what you want? Are you getting happy? So that's who we work with. And I'm at that stage where I'm also finding other people who do their forms of CPOPing. If, for instance, you ended up working with clients, hey, let's give you the website, and why don't you get on this ongoing basis so we could make sure that this website generates an ongoing business for you? Well, you'd be one of my partners. We give them the CPOP first, and then you'd work with your clients to allow them to have an ongoing business. You're doing your form of CPOPing, but it's so much easier if you're building a website if you know who and what you're building the website for.
Totally, no, very, very interesting, amazing as ever. So brilliant. So there's a lot we have to do and learn, and I have to say, you've had me think about past clients who've come in, and definitely you'd be surprised, back to your 98%, of how many people, when you ask them what's the website for, who you're targeting, what's your primary aims of that, they actually don't know or haven't thought about it in a number of years, maybe 4 or 5 years. So it's a very interesting concept that you've got me thinking about it myself. So I'm going to have to look at it as well. So if anyone listening to this or watching this wants to find out more, what's the best way for them to do that?
So it's my website. So it's mitchellevy.com. So that's 3 L's in the middle, mitchellevy.com. There you could take a look at where I work, the programs I have going on. I might encourage you to go to the monthly clarity session. It's 90 minutes. It's a group session. I guarantee you'll get a CPOP. And then if you want to continue, there are other things to do. And if, hey, listen, you go and you're not excited, I will give you your money back. So it's mitchellevy.com. And then for those who want to book time on my calendar is also tied into my site.
Brilliant. I will have live links to that and the article that you mentioned as well below this video as well. So again, Mitchell, thank you very much for your time today. I've learned a lot and you've got me thinking loads, so it's going to be a busy night for me.
I'm very curious what your CPOP is, so we'll have to have another conversation, or at least you'll have to send that to me.
Done. The pressure's on now. So
it isn't that, isn't it? The pleasant pressure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know this needs to happen, and you have it. You think. So I'd be curious to hear it. Yeah.
No, back to being clear where you're going. Very, very important. So you've given me loads to think about, and hopefully everyone listening as well. So thank you again.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant.